When you think of the world of Disney, the first thing that probably comes to mind is the Disney princesses. Ariel, Cinderella, and the other princesses are still popular and well-loved after all these years. But what about historical and mythical women who are too kick-ass to get the animated princess treatment? Former DreamWorks employee Jason Parath brings all of our princess dreams to life with his website, Rejected Princesses. Make sure you keep watching until the end to see which mythical Irish princess didn't make the Disney cut. Before we start, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more Disney princess-related videos. Here are 10 deleted Disney princesses and rejected concepts. Princess Petra. Princess Petra, also known as the Handless Princess, has a life story so gruesome that it's no wonder that she became a rejected princess. There was just no way to Disney-fy this one. Petra grew up as the sister of the king. When the king's wife passed away, he decided that he would have to marry his sister because he could find no one that was more beautiful than her. Petra was obviously strong against marrying her brother and asked him why he was so attracted to her. When he answered that she had such beautiful hands, Petra had her servants cut off her hands and sent them to her brother on a platter. We warned you that this one was messed up. The king did not at all find Petra's gift attractive nor funny, and he ordered his servants to stuff her in a trunk and throw her into the ocean. After drifting around aimlessly, she finally washed up on the shore of the Green Earth King's land and was taken in as the queen's servant. When the queen suddenly passed away, the Green Earth King decided that he would remarry Petra. The story goes on, but it does end happily. The sorcerer ends up being so moved by Petra's struggles that he uses his magic to regrow her hands. This princess may be more suited to the style of Brothers Grimm than Disney, but at least she didn't have to marry her brother. Princess Hatshepsut. Princess Hatshepsut was also known as the unforgettable pharaoh who ruled over Egypt for 22 years. She may not be as famous as Cleopatra, King Tut, or Nefertiti, but that doesn't mean she wasn't a brilliant ruler. Her successors actually tried to erase all traces of her time in power and nearly succeeded to. The only reason that we now know of her existence is thanks to the rapid increase of statues, architectures, and art during her reign. It was pretty impossible for them to erase her completely. Hatshepsut suddenly came into power after her father and brothers died, and the next person in line to the throne was too young to take over. She never chose to engage in violence during her reign and instead focused her attention on building up Egypt as much as possible. Her greatest achievement was building a 10-story stone obelisk that showed off her history. The purpose of it was to show the people that she was the rightful ruler of Egypt, and that contrary to their beliefs, she's always been king. The fact that we were able to rediscover her work today shows us just how great of a ruler she really was. The Metropolitan Museum in New York even has an entire room dedicated to this rejected princess, Princess Kate. Princess Kate, also known as the girl who saved a train, was a 15-year-old girl who saved 200 train commuters from falling to their deaths because of a broken train track. It was July 6, 1881, and a huge storm had the Des Moines River rising by 6 inches every hour. Kate watched as bridge after bridge gave out and collapsed into the icy river below. Instead of leaving the plan of action up to the adults, Kate decided to take matters into her own hands, and she set out to warn the next scheduled train of the fallen bridge. Having already lost her father and brother to train-related incidents, Kate knew that time was of the essence and that she would have to be fast if she wanted to change the fate of the doomed train. She climbed up onto the hazardous train tracks and had to walk a dangerous 670 feet to the next train station, cutting her hands and ripping her dress along the way. When she finally made it there, she warned the agent that the bridge was out. He didn't even believe her and dismissed her as crazy. It was only when another railway agent recognized her because of her father that they began to take her seriously, and they finally stopped the train from heading out. If this hero hadn't have taken matters into her own hands, there would have been many more casualties on that stormy night. She may not be a real Disney princess, but Princess Kate's act of bravery is one for the books. Princess Amari Devi. Princess Amari Devi, also known as Princess Who Engineered Her Own Victory, was a popular Cambodian beauty wwho caught the eye of many money-hungry suitors. Amari Devi wasn't interested in dating any of them, though, because she already had her heart set on her husband-to-be, Ma Jose. The greedy suitors became jealous of Ma Jose and began hinting to the king that he was a traitor. Finally, enough false evidence was built up against him, and Ma Jose was exiled. Knowing that her sneaky suitors had something to do with Ma Jose's fate, the princess came up with a genius plan to prove that they were liars. She had her servants dig up a huge pit in her back parlor and designed a trapdoor over it. She also told her suitors to come visit her at home and for some alone time. Lastly, she put all her jewels on display next to the trapdoor. When the suitors came over, one by one, she would have them wait in the back parlor while she got ready in the next room. As soon as they would grab a piece of her jewelry, she would yank down the trapdoor rope and they would fall into the pit below. She then brought them to royal court, proved that they were lying thieves, and her Mahoseth was finally allowed to return to her. Amari Devi is proof that one should never get between a princess and her true love. Princess Luwewe. Princess Luwewe, also known as the commander who wore lipstick to war, was a commander in the Philippines military. She didn't always want to be part of the army. Growing up, she was a self-proclaimed beauty queen who sewed her own dresses and loved wearing perfume. Her well-made-up life changed forever on the day that the Japanese invaded. Her beloved father was executed for trying to start a resistance against the Japanese, and that's when Luwewe swore that she would get her revenge. She left her small town to join a communist guerrilla squadron as a nurse, but she went on to become commander of the entire squad after only a couple of months. She was a ruthless leader too, and refused to let her troops back down after they received an order from the ranking officer to retreat on a mission. Instead, her 100 soldiers held their ground and kept on fighting, nearly winning the battle entirely by themselves. Not only was the princess completely fearless, she also looked fabulous while in combat. She would go out onto the battlefield with her hair done up, her lipstick on, and her nails manicured. We think that Disney totally needs to get on board with creating another female soldier princess. It's been way too long since Mulan came out. Princess Petra. Petra Herrera, otherwise known as the Soldadera Princess, was an integral part of the Mexican Revolution back in the early 1900s. Her full name was actually Colonel Petra Pedro Herrera, and if that cool name is not enough to convince you of her heroic nature, just wait until you hear her story. The revolution itself started when the Mexican president began to become totally unreasonable with his people. This caused his citizens to turn against him and for a war to break out. Princess Petra was so keen on joining the battle that she disguised herself as a man named Pedro so that she could fight just like Mulan did. She ended up becoming so popular amongst her fellow revolutionaries that she finally decided to tell them the truth about her gender and began fighting under her own name. She even went to battle with her hair down in braids, which must have been a confusing sight for her enemies to see before she swiftly attacked them. But when she received no recognition or promotion for her huge achievements in the war, Petra decided to leave the force so that she could create her own all-female brigade. It is estimated that at its peak, her army had around 1,000 female soldiers. We told you that this princess was fierce. Truthfully, Disney probably wouldn't have been able to handle this hardcore señorita. Her bravery serves as an inspiration to us all. Princess Shajar. Princess Shajar Alder was a king ransoming sultan who lived some time in the 1220s. Her life was not always charmed though, and she started out as a Turkic servant to the Sultan of Egypt. The two ended up falling madly in love and even got married within a year. Unfortunately for Shajar, her beloved ended up dying from an illness just as France had begun to invade Egypt. At the time, France was one of the wealthiest and most powerful countries in the world, and their ruler, Louis IX, was intimidating. Instead of backing down fearfully, Shajar just pretended that the Sultan was very sick and couldn't come into contact with anyone. She then quietly took over the throne and made decisions about the war with the help of her husband's chief commander. This lion-hearted princess ended up overthrowing the invaders and taking Louis IX as her prisoner. She then told France that they would only get back their beloved monarch if they agreed to pay about 30% of their country's total annual revenue to Egypt. The princess was one fierce negotiator, and when Shajar finally admitted her husband's death and his successor to the throne took over, she found a way to turn everyone against him, and she became the official sultan instead. With her strong desire to lead and her fearlessness, we think that Shajar would have been the best independent Disney princess ever created. Princess Yara. Princess Yara, also known as Brazil's Lady of the Lake, was the daughter of the spiritual leader of her Amazon-dwelling tribe. Iara became the best warrior of the tribe and was her father's pride and joy. This caused her two brothers to become jealous of her, and they made a plan to get rid of her forever. They knew that she was a skilled fighter, so they waited until she went to bed to attack her, hoping that her sleepiness would give them the upper hand. But as soon as they got near her, Iara woke up and got rid of them both in self-defense. Her father didn't listen to her side of the story and instead sent the tribe out to get her. They threw her into the river when they found her, hoping to never see her again. But Iara was able to survive in the water because the fish in the river decided to turn her into a mermaid. The second half of Iara's story gets quite dark from here on out. As a mermaid, Iara spent her days using her beauty to enchant men over to her so that she could attack them. This princess is a far cry from the Little Mermaid, but we think that the Disney franchise could use a princess from the Amazon. Princess Kutuyun. Kutuyun, also known as the Wrestler Princess, grew up in a Mongolian household with 14 brothers. She learned to ride horses and shoot bows alongside them and eventually became more skilled than them. When the Mongol Empire broke out into a civil war, Kutuyun was the only one that her father trusted when it came to military expertise. In the battle, it was said that this princess would leave her father's side for just a mere second and then return to him with a victim in hand. You could say that Kutuyun was this Mongolian warrior troop's secret weapon, but it was really her wrestling ability that really made her stand out from the rest. She was an undefeated wrestling champion. She was so sure of her ability to win every fight that she even told her father that she would only marry someone if they could beat her in wrestling. But if they lost, they had to give her 100 horses. She ended up staying undefeated at wrestling, but she did gain 10,000 horses from failed suitors. Her stubbornness towards marriage actually led people to make up rumors that she was in love with her father. This gun-shooting wrestling warrior's resistance against the norms of how women should behave would have made her the perfect Disney princess in our eyes. Princess Edan. Princess Edan is the goddess of Irish sovereignty, with an odd backstory that was obviously a little too weird for Disney to handle. Her story starts out with her giving birth to her son, Angus. But since she wasn't supposed to have this baby, the baby's daddy's brother, Meteor, was put in charge of raising him. Meteor and Angus lived a happy, quiet life together until one day when Angus accidentally caused Meteor to lose his eye. To make up for the loss, Meteor caused Angus to find him the most beautiful woman in Ireland. Cue Princess Edan. To win Edan's affection, Angus cleaned up Ireland's rivers, cleared out fallen trees, and landscaped the country beautifully. This somehow caused Edan to fall in love with Meteor, and they end up happily married. However, Meteor's first wife somehow never consented to this union, and so she angrily cast a spell on Edan. This spell turned Edan into a pool of water, then into a worm, and then into a butterfly. The butterfly princess spends the next 7 years flying around Ireland with no purpose. Thankfully, only 1,000 years later, she finally landed on a lady's wine glass, was consumed, and somehow got the lady pregnant with herself. So fast forward 9 months, and Edan too was born. This princess truly never gave up in the face of adversity, but we have a feeling that her timeline of 1,000 years would have been a bit too complicated for Disney to work with. That's all for our list of 10 deleted Disney princesses and rejected concepts. Did we miss a rejected princess? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.